A little history lesson for all the fake news media. The Second Amendment is not about hunting, it's not about recreation, it's not about sports. The Second Amendment is about maintaining within the citizenry the ability to maintain an armed rebellion against the government if that becomes necessary.
That happened in Georgia last night. By the way, as history, that's flatly untrue. Ask George Washington, who put down the Whiskey Rebellion, if he was cool with a bunch of people with guns taking on the government. Robert Jones, CEO and founder of the Public Religion Research Institute that conducted that polling, the author of The End of White Christian America. Robert, let me start with you on the polling. So when I see polling like that, I feel wigged out, but I also am always a little skeptical of polling people's ideologies, right? Because you can get people to say a lot of different things depending on how you phrase things. There's always this question of like, what are you measuring in there? So make the case to me that this polling is getting at something real in the belief systems of the people that are responding.
Great. Well, thanks for having me on. I mean, I think that's a perfectly legitimate question. We thought long and hard, actually, about how to do this well. You know, you can't just ask people, are they a member of the QAnon movement? It doesn't actually function quite that way. So we spent a lot of time actually looking at QAnon message boards and trying to figure out what the core tenets were. And in public opinion polling, when you're trying to get a measure like this, what you really want to do is not just go at it with one question, but go at it with two or three. And I think what's remarkable about this, you just read the three core tenets that we measured here, and they really get at kind of three things. They get at the presence of evil in the world, this kind of Satan worshiping pedophiles. A poll question, by the way, I never thought I would write as a social scientist, but here we are. In apocalyptic thinking, right, that there's a storm coming, sweeping away elites of power, and then justification of violence. And what we find is that these three views actually cohere very well together. And that gives you additional confidence that you just haven't kind of come at it, from some odd angle and picked up some kind of offhand set of beliefs. But they actually correlate quite tightly with each other. And then when you analyze them, for example, it's 15% of the population. I should point out that's 30 million adults who qualify, who think all three of these things. And then when we look at it, we find that it seems to correlate with the people that we think it would, and the people who have followed this. So, for example, when you look at Republicans, as you said, and white evangelical Protestants, I should add as well, it's 1 in 4, right, who affirm these core tenets of QAnon. So, it gives us confidence that what we're looking at is real. It's slightly bigger than the Tea Party, for example. That's also a little benchmark. At the Tea Party at its height, 10 years, it was about 10 or 11% of the population. This is 15. So it's in line with some other kinds of movements that we've seen. But I think what's really troubling here is, especially when we look at like 1 in 4 Republicans, 1 in 4 white evangelical Protestants, that this kind of proto-religious conspiracy movement isn't just a laughable fringe movement, which I think is the temptation when you read those questions, right? But it's now actually an animating core.
Yeah, and I should say, when I say about, well, what are you measuring, right? Sometimes you get these interest groups that will poll in such a way where they'll ask a question where people will kind of assent out of a sort of social expectation. But this is the opposite of that. You say to someone like, do you think the government, media, and financial worlds in the U.S. are controlled by a group of Satan-worshipping pedophiles who run a global sex trafficking operation? Like, I think unless you really believe that, you're probably going to say no. You're eliciting something real there. And